Hey everybody, it's John coming at you with a tutorial on DIT and organization techniques. This is a oft misunderstood topic. I think there's a lot of confusion surrounding it, a lot of misconceptions as to the best way, the best practices for this. So I'm going to clear up a bunch of misconceptions for you, hopefully take you on a ride of understanding the reasoning behind what we do, so that way it clears up some of the confusion surrounding this topic. So, organization. Organization is an essential part of any workflow. Now, organization in your mind does not necessarily mean organization in everybody else's mind. So, I'm going to show you an example of how I've organized my drive. And this is generally what we want to be doing here. So you'll see here on the root, that's the home of my drive, like the home page, so to speak. I have numbered folders, and the reason why I number them first is so that way I can easily organize them in an ascending or descending order, not based on the alphabetical names. So instead of doing video and audio just by themselves, I can put video and audio next to each other in the list, rather than if I were to sort this alphabetically by name, it would put the video all the way at the bottom, the audio all the way at the top, etc. When we build our folders on our drive and when we label things, we want to do it so that way if, God forbid, something happened to you tomorrow and your friend wanted to carry on your legacy and finish your project, they could come in here and within 30 seconds figure out where they need to go and what they need to use. So you'll notice here I have my video. If I open that up, let's go to this view. We open up the video folder. I have my first project, Zebra, and again I'm using the numbers here because I want to have, this is my first project, right? We're going to add a single card from the second project as a demo in a little bit, but this is where I want to get to when I'm adding that card. Now, I had 2 shoot days for this specific project, and you'll notice here I've put the year first, so 2019, and then the month and day. And the reason why we do that is, let's say that we're shooting on the cusp of a year, or we go back later and we shoot something at a different time. Certain months, if we don't use this format, will end up getting sorted incorrectly. So, for example, if I had shot another day in 2020, I would label it like this. And so that way my list is still sequential in the order of the days that I shot. Now, if I had it like this, where I am labeling it with the month and then the day, you'll quickly see what becomes the issue. See, now that's first in the list when it was really the last day that we shot. So that can be confusing. It just makes it harder to read as well. So that's why I like to stick to the year, month, day system. Some people also like to do, some people also like to do this format, which is totally legitimate. That's another way to do it. And you can just use that 2020. I could put 2019 in front of these instead. All totally fine ways to do it. So I'm going to delete all these and show you what I've got in here. Okay, so my first folder here, we shot 2 cards on camera A and 1 card on camera B. I've labeled the cards here based on how they were shot. So the first card that came out of the A camera is A001. The second card that came out of the A camera is A002. The first card that came out of the B camera, because they shot some B-roll somewhere else, was B001. But since we only shot 1 card off of the B camera, there's no need for another for 002. Okay. So no matter how our cards are labeled when they come out of the camera, you'll see here, for example, we shot on a GH5, so this is just says Lumix because the GH5 relabels every card the same. Other cameras will actually give you the card number. So professional cameras like the F55, the FS7 from Sony, Alexa, the Red even, if the cinematography team, the DP, has done their job correctly, they will have these coming out of the camera in ascending order, which makes this labeling process much easier. Now, if you look here, you'll notice I have a lot of folders here. And for those of you who have shot on DSLRs before, this seems excessive, because probably what you've done in the past is you've wanted to just come into the folder, your DCIM folder here. Let's say I'm doing the copy here. Click through here, find your clips, and then just click and drag them. And that's absolutely incorrect. It's something that a lot of people like to do, and I'm going to tell you now, it is not what you should be doing. There's a reason these other folders exist on these cards. There are other files in here, and you are not smarter than the people who built and programmed this camera. So don't try to risk anything by thinking you are. When you copy, we want to be copying every single thing on the card. Okay? It might not seem like something important off the bat, but it can actually be very important. I actually have a screenshot of an F55 card. I'm going to use the Lumix card for the tutorial for purposes of speed. But you'll see here, this XD root folder on the root of the F55 card contains a multitude of different things here. Okay, we have XMLs, we have all sorts of different folders here. And you'll see even within the file here, there's multiple things, right? You have an MXF, an XML, a .bim. All of these different files, whether or not every program accesses them, they exist for a reason and they need to be there. So when you're copying your card, you need to be copying everything, which means this XD root folder, not just the clip folder, not just the individual clips. You need to be copying everything. In my case for today, I need to be copying the DCIM, the miscellaneous, and the private folder, all from this Lumix card here. Okay? Okay, so that is our first thing. With organization, we want to be clear and we want to be consistent. Clarity and consistency are the top two priorities when we're doing DIT. Okay? Now, let's open up Resolve. We all have access to this program. It's available online for download. I'm running 15, but you can run, you're probably running 16 in the labs. It's 16 now. I'm just lazy. I have not updated this. It does not make a difference for our purposes. Okay, so we have Resolve open now, and my first thing, I'm just going to double click into a new project. If you need more information on creating a new project in Resolve, managing databases, I highly recommend going on the DMC website. They've got a great tutorial about it. Okay, so I'm inside my Resolve project. The first thing I want to do is save my project here. I'm going to call this, in this case, I'm going to call this project is going to be called Billy Takes on the World. And today's date, which is the 28th. Okay. Now, this is a great function in Resolve. Other programs do use a similar function. In Resolve, it's called the clone tool. In other programs like ShotPut that are dedicated to only doing that, it's not a specific tool, that is the tool. But today we're going to focus on the easiest way to do this, the freest method, where you can use Resolve for as long as you want. It's going to be a free license on your computer. If you missed it earlier, I clicked down here into my media management page here, and I'm going to click over here into the clone tool. Now you'll see here it pops up, a little window pops up, and what I need to do first is I need to add a job. Okay, and what that's going to do is it's going to give me two separate places to drop files. These are active, like, drop locations. The first one is the source, where I'm going to drop the source folder here, and that folder is not going to be the DCIM, it's not going to be the miscellaneous or the private, it's going to be this drive itself, the Lumix drive. Okay. I'm going to drag that on there, and it's going to show the pathway underneath. And this is a nice little quick way to make sure that I'm putting using the correct source and destination folders. It's more important for our destination so we know where things are going. Now here, you notice that I showed you my folders earlier. I haven't made a new folder yet. So what I need to do is I need to come back here to my Finder and just make a new folder on this drive. So this is going to be O2 video, or excuse me, O2 Billy. I'm just going to abbreviate Billy World here because, all right, let's do it this way. Okay. And under that, I'm going to have my first shoot day, which was yesterday. Okay. And inside of that, I'm going to put my A001 folder. Okay. Now, this folder here is going to essentially be our destination. And it's essentially going to act as a dummy version of this containing folder for all the Lumix folders, right? So basically the A001 is going to double as this Lumix source here. And that way we're never messing with the actual card structure. It's very important that we never actually tamper with the way things are organized internally when they're recorded. Okay, so I'm going to drop this in. There we go. And you'll see now I can see this entire destination. If I pull this window out a bit, oh, it's not going to let me do it. You'll see here, putting it right where I need A001, okay? And now what I'm going to do is, now that I've done that, I'm just going to click clone, and I'm going to let Resolve run its magic. The most important thing when you're doing this, the best service you can do to yourself, is just not to touch anything. Just let it do its job, let it run. Now you're going to notice here it says about 18 minutes remaining. If you were to click and drag this through the Finder, it would take less time. However, the reason why it's taking more time is because Resolve is checking all of the files as it's transferring them. It's doing something that we call a checksum, and it's going to generate a report of every single file that's been transferred to the drive at the end of the session. Okay, so patience is really key with this stuff. I know it's really tempting to go and just click and drag things really quickly, copy them over when you're in a rush, but when we're talking about your film, you know, this is something you've poured your heart and soul into, your money most likely, and this is really the only thing that's separating it from being lost. So take the time and the care to do it right. Get somebody who knows what they're doing if you're not going to be doing it yourself, and really make sure that you're, paying attention to the details here. Some people get away without doing that, and it only ends up being a matter of time before they don't anymore. So just be good to yourself by just being a little more strict now and getting into the rhythm and the habit of doing it correctly, and before you know it, it's just going to be second nature to you. There are definitely slightly faster, more technical ways to do this, but it's not something that I really recommend for people who are just starting out. This is just an easy visual way to handle your footage, and it's considered an industry standard way to do it. All right, so we'll be back when this is finished copying in about 15 minutes. Okay, and we are back. And you'll see right up here it says complete, meaning that we have completed the job, that it was successful, and in case you weren't sure, it's also green. If there were a problem, it would say error up here instead. There would be big red font there, and it would be pretty clear. So the way that I'm going to now check the work that Resolve has done for me is I'm going to come back into Finder here and open up my TechArts drive and just navigate to the location that I clone those files to. Okay. And you'll see here I have two new files. One is a .mhl, which stands for media hash list, and the second one is something called md5sums.txt. This file here, the .txt file, is a list or a report, if you will, of every single thing that was transferred to this location. Okay? Resolve automatically puts it into the folder with in the A001 folder. It puts it wherever you originally copied the footage to. You'll notice here during the break I made a separate folder called offload logs, and that's where I'm going to put these reports. The media hash list is another file which, in short, you don't need to know this right now, but in short it basically just verifies that every single thing has perfectly been copied to the location that you've specified. So in my case, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make a separate A001 reports folder under the offload logs, and I'm just going to move these two files in there, because if you remember what I was saying before, we want this A001 folder to perfectly replicate what it would look like if we were to click on our Lumix drive. So you'll see here, if I click there, it looks like that, and if I come back here, click on my A001, it looks just like that. Okay? So I'm going to move these into my reports folder, and that's it. So then I could, if I had a second card, I could put it under here, A002 reports, etc. You'll notice that actually I didn't put them in this folder here for Zebra. That's because I had them with in another folder on my drive in a miscellaneous folder, but this is probably just an easier way to do it, especially for shorter things. It's just very clean, very, very obvious where everything is, right? And you could also name your offload logs, you could call it reports if you wanted to. So that's how we clone files from a card to our drive. Now, when we go to do our second backup and our third backup, because we always want to have 3 backups for safekeeping, we don't want to be copying from the TechArts drive. No matter what this report says, these offload logs say, we do not want to be copying from this drive, because God forbid if something got corrupted when we originally copied it, then we're just copying over the corruption. If we made an error, if something got interrupted or a couple clips didn't get copied, well, then we're not fully backing up our card to the other drives either. So you always want to be starting with the source card and copying directly to a new drive. And then that way you have 3 separate clean copies rather than the potential of copying one bad copy 3 times and then just being screwed. Now, some people ask, well, isn't 2 copies enough? And the answer is no. You always want to have 3, because if one drive fails and you need to copy something from the other drive, well, then you're messing with the files on that second drive in order to create a new backup. And they're in risk of having some sort of problem happen to them, whether it be, environmental, like, what if that drive gets banged around or something, or it could just be, a corruption when you're copying things over. I actually had a friend who shot a short film, backed up to 3 drives, stored 1 abroad in Italy where he shot the film, and brought 2 back with him. And those 2 drives that he brought with him failed because of totally different reasons. One of them was probably harmed in transit when he flew over, and the other one happened because some files got corrupted and then the drive just died. But thankfully he had that third one in the pocket, so there was never really any issue of the files really being in danger. So do yourself a favor and peace of mind, especially with your larger projects of backing up to 3 or more discrete locations and backing up directly from the card itself. Okay, so those are the basics of DIT, backing up on set, backing up your files. I hope you learned something. If you have any questions, of course, feel free to shoot me a message, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon. Hey everybody, one last thing. You're You're probably wondering, well, is there a different process for backing up audio? And the answer is no. It's basically exactly the same. The only difference is that when we come in here to make our folders, instead of A001, A002, we're generally going to only have one card for the entire day. So only one card of audio. And generally speaking, that card of audio, it comes out of the recorder with a date on it. So generally what we do is, instead of doing an A001 convention, what we do instead is we just add a new folder. We would then add the date for the of the shoot day, and then we would use this as the drive dummy, as I like to call it, or to replicate this level of the drive, like on the Lumix card. And then all of those files would just go, and the checksums would end up in that folder there. It's slightly different, but it's basically the same thing, only instead of using adding a separate level for the date and then the cards, we can just add a folder for the date and then put the card in there. Now, if there's more than one card, that's another story, and then we're kind of on the same thing. We have to do the same thing where we're essentially adding, card 1, or however it comes titled, however the editorial team would like it labeled, like that, and then for that day. I would probably also just include the date at the beginning as well. It's pretty rare that you have more than one audio card for a given shoot day, but it does happen sometimes, so just be aware of that. Okay, see you in class.